Hello, welcome back to Lookout with me, Andrew Kay, and my guest Simon Moorhead and Alison Child. Alison, you've been away.
I have.
I've missed you.
I've missed you guys.
It's been 6 months and a week.
It's been almost 6 months.
Yeah.
Yes, but we've been in touch, haven't we, by email? We've been in
throughout.
Constant touch.
Yes. Well, it's been an exciting time for you, and I understand the excitement of the time we've had because I too published a book, and you've been editing, finishing what you're writing, and sorting out the finer details.
On Tell Me I'm Forgiven, the story of forgotten stars, Gwen Farrar and Nora Blaney. And you designed the cover, and I'm so grateful and so thrilled with it.
It was lovely to do, and it takes me back to my early career as a book cover designer.
Well, you've done a fantastic job.
I designed over 3,000 back in the day,
which
is a horrifying number. You know, people say everyone's got a book in them, and I thought everyone had a book cover in them. I had all of those book covers in. It was a bit scary, really. But it was lovely to do, and I've actually been talking to you about this book now for 18 months.
At least,
because when we first met,
yes,
you were just about to embark on writing it.
I was, and I'd already been researching it for 4 years then, because I discovered Gwen and Nora in 2014 on YouTube, on a grainy bit of YouTube footage that someone had posted, and I just was intrigued by these two women who were so obviously flirting with each other and had this amazing rapport. So
how did they meet?
They met each other entertaining the troops in the First World War. There was a suffragette actress called Lena Ashwell who pioneered concert parties for troops in 1914. And by 1917, they were really well established. And she was taking artists out to Belgium and France and other theatres of war as well. And Gwen and Nora separately went along as classical artists because Nora was a concert pianist. She'd been to the Royal Academy and the Royal College of Music. She was a composer. She was an amazing, multi-talented woman. And Gwen played the cello to a very, very high standard. And they went out and they were separate turns. But then there was a comedy performer called Wish Wynne who broke her ankle on a ploughed field when they were making their way in the dark to the officers' mess for dinner.
You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't make it up. It would make a marvellous TV or a film, Simon, I promise you. And they had to replace Wish at short notice. And somebody said, well, Gwen and Nora are always having a bit of a laugh. Well, they'd met a week earlier and realised that they were kindred spirits, and it was love at first sight, really. And they sort of riffed off each other. Nora would go on and play the piano, and then so they were thrown on stage to do a comedy turn, and Gwen sort of sent Nora up, and Nora sang a song about dogs, and Gwen would do dog howling noises and pick her cello up and stick it on her back like a sack of coals, or pick it up and play it like a banjo. And it was such a success that they went back home and decided that they would make a go of it together, and they went on the halls, as Nora said, and they were touring with Little Titch and Vesta Tilly and Hetty King. And
we've all heard of those names. Why has it taken so long for us to hear about Nora and Gwen?
Well, they went into review doing the same sort of work that Noel Coward started doing, sort of topical things. And I think topical material is very ephemeral, so it's very, very funny 1 minute, and then, of course, it's satirising a new fashion, for instance. Or
like satirical comedy, you don't often see repeats of great satire programmes because the moment has gone. Precisely.
So they didn't sort of maintain a place in cultural memory because of that, I think. And I think being women as well, and not having any descendants, neither of them had children, to keep their memory alive. I think that, there are so many factors that determine who gets remembered and who doesn't. And the sort of cultural gatekeepers ceased to, they didn't register them, and it's been an absolute labour of love and so much fun sort of putting them back where they deserve to be, because they were household names in 1924.
Now, they were household names, but did households know that they were lovers.
No, not really. I think the Bright Young Things did. I mean, anything went in those days. But for the most of their audience, thought that they were a quirky pair who had a good rapport. But I think were far too sort of innocent to think to know what was going on behind closed doors in the King's Road, Chelsea, which is where they shared a beautiful townhouse. Gwen had pots of money. I mean, they came from totally different classes, which makes it all the more interesting, really, that they were attracted to each other.
Gwen was wealthy?
Gwen was extremely wealthy. Her father had struck gold in South Africa, gone out from Bedford, where he was born, Bedfordshire, and set up there's an area of Johannesburg, Bedford View, that's named after him because he was able to sort of buy it, and he built a beautiful house there that's now a girls' school with marvellous grounds. Sir George Farrar, he was a baronet, and he and his wife, Lady Ella, produced 6 daughters, but sadly no heir to the baronetcy. But they kept on trying, and Gwen was the middle one.
It's a job. Someone's got to do it.
Somebody had to do it.
And in contrast, of course,
Nora came from very much similar sort of background to Noel Coward, sort of southwest London.
Right.
Both had very quite pushy mums who were, wanted their child to do well. Saw musical talent there and nurtured it. And Nora was an only child and very much the apple of her parents' eye. Her father was a bassoon player. But he came from very working class stock. In fact, he was brought up by a single mum because his father had died, and the doctor noticed that he had breathing difficulties, and said to his mum, he should take up a wind instrument because this will help his lungs. And this is Nora's father, so he took up the oboe, and then swapped to the bassoon, practiced away, became a dock clerk, but kept on practicing, got married to Nora's mum, kept on practicing in the evenings, going out to work in the docks in the day, practicing the instrument in the evening, and got a scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music.
I can see Simon's ticking away thinking, God, this is going to look great on film.
It is. I hope
or
you
even
are.
better on audio.
On audio, it's cheaper as well. I mean, it is an extraordinary story. I mean, it does read like fiction.
There are many ups and downs. It really did. When our wonderful editor, Helen Sandler at Tollington Press, she asked me, first of all, I presented her with the idea and the first few chapters, and she said, wow, there really is something here. Can you do a synopsis? And as soon as I wrote the synopsis, I thought, wow, this really, it really is almost as if I've made it up and it's a novel. There are so many twists and turns, but it's all true. And I've really, you can never be entirely, what's the truth? It's so subjective. Yes. But I really have had as one of my main criteria being accurate to what actually happened. And there are little bits that I've sort of had to use my imagination because they left behind no letters to each other. So I've had to use my imagination in some places, but I've always wanted so much to be true to the evidence. And I've really have scoured everything for the evidence. So I've laid out all the evidence. I've been to New York and Johannesburg and archives all over the UK.
I was going to say, when we first spoke about it all those months ago, you were saying, I don't know where I'm going to find all this material from. Over the months, you were saying, we found some more pictures. We found some more letters. And you've been sending me the most extraordinary, comic strips. There's images
caricatures
of them.
Which shows they were famous, because you don't do caricatures of people nobody's heard of, do you? So lots and lots of fantastic caricatures by some very gifted caricature artists.
I mean, how do you go about researching 2 figures like that? Work at the start, you think, there isn't anything, there are no letters.
Nobody's heard of them at all. Well, I've been terribly fortunate that the British Newspaper Archive has been put online, and you can subscribe for a reasonable yearly subscription, and you can literally sort of search Gwen Farrar, May 1926, and things will come up. And each time you do a different search and change the wording, it's a bit like Google, but it's much more specific, you get a different result. And that's been marvellous, because I haven't actually had to I've had that at my fingertips online, but I have in other cases gone to actual physical archives, and that's even more exciting. Really, that even beats the sort of the hit that you get from a search, But when the archivist brings it out and opens up
the cotton gloves,
yes, exactly.
Yes,
oh, isn't it wonderful? Yes,
brilliant. We're going to go to a break, but we've not stopped talking about these two extraordinary women, and we've not stopped talking about your amazing horror stories. We'll come back after these ads, and I'm sure Simon will frighten me, and Alison will make me laugh and giggle as she always does. We'll see you after these ads.